Okay. So, yeah. So last week, I don't know why or how we got to talk. Oh, I think we were. I don't know. I don't know what we were talking about. I don't remember. But anyway, somehow it came up in the conversation that we were going to talk about appraisals. So I don't know. You any stories about appraisals this week, Wes? Or
I don't know, but I bet Terrence has more appraisal stories than we do.
Well,
you know,
go ahead, Terrence. I mean, well, one of the things that I do. I mean, I've been hearing a lot of agents that have been having problems with. Because of the multiple offer situation, having problems with properties appraising out. I haven't really had that problem. Have you been seeing a lot of those problems, Terrence or Wes?
it's hit or miss. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I guess it depends on the property, obviously, and how high it's going for. I've had, obviously, even before this big surge in pricing, appraisals that have come in low. It really just depends on the appraiser. But recently, knock on wood, things have actually been appraising out. So I guess the value actually is there now.
Well, I think probably the surge has been happening long enough that that's helped, because I mean, usually the issue with appraisals is that it's a historically based number, going back a certain number of months. So it always has a hard time keeping up with the market when the market is surging up. But it feels like maybe it's been up long enough that that's kind of the history, the recent history is catching up, and it's, easier to appraise out for them, I would think. But
yeah.
I did have something happen last year, or early this year, I guess, when I had a property that didn't appraise out in the western neighborhoods, and it's the first time it had happened to me in quite a while. But unfortunately, it was an FHA deal, which means that the buyer had an FHA loan, and so once it did not appraise, not only was there not a lot of recourse, but that appraisal stays on the books. How long is it, Terrence? Is it 6 months or something?
6 months.
Yeah. Yep. So it, I would say in that neighborhood, it was probably about a 50-50 chance that the next buyers would be FHA buyers as well.
Okay.
And so, that was kind of knocking out half of our, half of our buyers to come anywhere near close what we were, trying to get for it.
Right.
We did end up working out a deal. The buyer actually, we kind of met in the middle, and the buyer actually paid some, brought more cash to the table and actually did pay, to get it. But yeah, that FHA thing makes it a little trickier.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, so Terrence, I know when they put the TRID regulations through a few years ago that they changed this whole thing about appraisers and banks colluding, and so they set up this third-party board that the lenders had to go through to order an appraisal to kind of create this arm's length transaction between the lenders and the appraisers. Is that still in place? Or, I mean, I haven't heard much about that. When it first went into place, there was a lot of outcry about, they're sending in appraisers from Indiana who appraise farmland to appraise condos in, north side of Chicago. And it was really an issue, but I haven't really heard too much about that. I'm wondering, are they still doing that? Is that still in place, or what's the story there?
Yes, thankfully. We have nothing to do with the appraisers. They have nothing to do with us. They have nothing to do with anybody. And that's, I think we touched on this last week. That is the main thing that I try to convey to the clients, and even also some agents that don't know that the appraisers don't work for us. They're independent contractors now. So what they do is they are contracted out by appraisal management companies. And basically we order an appraisal, it gets spit over to the appraisal management company, and they kind of post it like a job board and say, hey, here's an appraisal, who wants it? And it's, first come, first serve. An appraiser comes and takes it. Generally, you would think that it'd be an appraiser that's familiar with the area, but it's really first come, first serve. An appraiser accepts it. They reach out to the listing agent to schedule it and, do the inspection. So, they have nothing to do with any of the banks and any of the lenders. They don't work for us anymore.
Huh. Wow. Huh. Interesting. Yeah. Well, I know it's a problem if there's an. I mean, I haven't really had an issue with my listings out appraising out, but I was going to say it's because I'm old school and I still actually meet the appraiser there, and I bring a little portfolio with me, and appraisers like to have copies of the surveys, and I bring them my CMAs. Some appraisers are funny about, oh, I can't accept your comps, although again, I haven't had an issue with that recently either. But right after the TRID regulations went into place, I had a couple of appraisers who wouldn't accept my comps. They said, I can't take that. I don't know why. I don't know, but they must.
According to those regulations, they were not supposed to. But it seems like they've kind of like loosened up on that. But they're not.
They definitely do now. Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely will. I mean, I haven't had an appraiser not accept my comps for a while, but so I bring a copy of the contract. Of course, they already have it, but I'm trying to get them to kind of take my whole package. So I bring a listing sheet. I usually have my sellers fill out a sheet that in addition to the property disclosure, it's a sheet when they did what to the property. So the HVAC was put in 2015, or the windows were replaced, and whatever like that. It's kind of a checklist that they go down and fill out, and appraisers love that stuff. If it's a condo, I have a similar kind of sheet that I ask my sellers to fill out, to fill in how much money does the association have in reserves and things like that. So I try to put these little Easter eggs in there. I guess that's what they call that, right? so that my appraiser will take my packet, and they love having surveys and floor plans because it saves them time, and anything that can save them time, is good. So anyway.
Definitely.
Yeah, so I mean, I have to believe that because I do that, and I'm old school. I was taught to do that early in my career, and that's how we used to do things. And so that's what I do, and it seems to work. So anyway.
Well, you're probably also more realistic about pricing your properties.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, I haven't had a situation where I've had a property sell for $80,000 over the list price. There was one in the neighborhood that I work in, where I do a lot of my work in Lincoln Square, that they had 20 offers, and it sold for $80,000 over list. So I don't know it.
Wow.
Yeah. I know.
We recently heard from some of our Compass agents in Lake Tahoe. We're on a call with them, and their properties are selling. They're getting 70 and 80. Now, this was a few months ago, but they were getting 70, 80 offers on a property, and properties were selling for $1 million over appraised value. And obviously
overappraised
value. I mean, all the properties are multi-million dollars anyway, but selling for $1 million or more over appraised value.
So what kind of property values are we? What kind of price range are we talking about here?
I'm sure anything from a few $1 million to $10, $20, $30 million. Yeah. but because I don't think you can get
crazy.
anything in Tahoe for under that. And it's, you know, it was a big run on the property from the Bay Area once many of the tech companies like Facebook were told that they wouldn't be going back to the office. So a lot of those people, you know, ran out west toward Tahoe and bought places. So that's where where the biggest of the surge came from. So that, you know, those were the people that were already vacationing and spending weekends in Tahoe as is. But yeah, so it's, you know, we think we're hearing the stories here of 80,000 over over list price, but some of these areas in the country are seeing some real extremes.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So obviously appraisal means nothing out there. So, you know, in those kind of places, and they're all paying cash anyway, you know, to win the deal and get the property. So it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But you know, and obviously if they're all selling like that, the value is there because, you know, the market value is what people are willing to pay for it. When you got 80 people, you know, 80 offers on every property coming in, they're willing to pay that. But it's like we said, you know, the appraisal industry doesn't, you know, because it's historically based, doesn't keep up with the market. So I don't know, it's interesting.
Well, I think another important concept too, besides the fact that appraisers look at history, they can't obviously predict the future. They're looking at what's happened, not
right.
And sometimes real estate agents don't understand that, but it's also I always kind of felt like if there were multiple offers on a property and they are all within a certain range, that pretty much established the value of the property. And I think to a certain extent it does. But there's a term, and I can't think of what it is right now. I'm drawing a blank, Terrence, but it's called... it's an FHA thing that they want the appraiser to establish, well, basically that you know that you're not the only buyer on the planet that's willing to pay this money for the property. It's called something. There's a term for it, and I can't remember what it is. Market value.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Market value, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, with these appraisals, it's just, you know, I think as long as, you know, everyone involved sets the expectation, obviously, you know, as a buyer's agent, you know, if it's going over asking, you have to let the client know that, you know, there's a possibility it may or may not appraise. I mean, you know, you guys are awesome at what you do. So you do the CMA and you say, look, this might not appraise, so you might have to come out of pocket for the remainder.
Right. Well,
and,
yeah.
You know,
I had a deal last week. Actually, we the buyer came to us with a pre-approval of 520, and the purchase price was 535. This is sort of maybe not about appraisal so much, but you know, it's like, okay, that's great that she's willing to pay 535, but she's only approved for a mortgage of 520. So I actually asked the listing agent, the selling agent, the buyer's agent, to provide us with a proof of funds to show that she had the money, you know, that she could make up that spread. But then magically and mysteriously, she actually showed up with a new pre-approval letter for the purchase price. So that solved that problem. But anyway, yeah, I mean, if it doesn't appraise out, the buyer has to make up the spread. So I guess if they're coming in at so much over the list price or what you think the property's worth, I think it's justified to ask for a proof of funds to prove that they can cover that spread.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, do we have anything more we want to say about appraisals? Such a fascinating topic.
I was going to say, it's not the most exciting thing in the world.
Yeah, I know. I don't know.
I've seen an appraisal report come in. I just hold my breath.
I'm sorry. What, Terrence?
Whenever I see an appraisal report come in, I just hold my breath before I open it.
Yeah, I know, right? I know. It's called fun with numbers. That's what appraisals are. I think the appraiser basically arrives at what he thinks it's worth, and then it's all fun with numbers to prove that what he thinks it's worth it. It's total,
yeah,
right? Total manipulation of the
exactly.
numbers. Yeah.
It is. And you find a way to make it work.
Right. But
if they really want the property.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, and well, I guess that's another important point that we should make too, is that when a seller's preparing for an appraisal, they need to prepare that property the same as if it's a showing. I mean, because you want to impress the appraiser that that the property's worth what it's being sold for. So I think some sellers have the notion like, oh, it's done, it's sold. I don't have to make the beds. I don't have to put the dirty dishes away. I always tell sellers to hide their dirty dishes in the stove because nobody ever opens the oven.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think sometimes sellers have the notion that because the property's now under contract, they don't have to be ready for the appraiser. But it's important, I think, to prepare the home for a showing, just like you would for a buyer when the appraiser comes out, because it does make a difference. Anyway.
Great.
Yeah, I think this humidity, I don't think the humidity I have a weather station. We got a weather station a couple of months ago, three or 4 months ago, and it has not been below 70% humidity, I don't think, in a month. It has been so humid here. It's just
that was quite a segue there, Mary.
I know.
All right.
I'm just saying we're kind of low energy.
I thought you were going to say the humidity had something to do with the appraisals.
Yeah, those appraisers, they just get stressed out with the humidity, so it happens.
Well, I was just saying, I think we're kind of low energy today, and I think it's because of the humidity. Yeah, I did kind of leave a few connecting thoughts out there, didn't I? Oh, well.
Oh, wow, where is this going?
That's okay.
So what's anybody got
I
coming
love the segue.
Anything exciting coming up this week coming up?
No.
Unfortunately, no.
Just
we're in those days of summer. We're just chugging along.
Yeah. It does seem like it. I mean, we're not having the market that we had in April and May. It's definitely simmered down. It's still brisk. It's still active, but it's not.
And that's typical for this time of year too. Midsummer, it's always a little bit of a lull, but I think it's more flat this year as opposed to a dip. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah. So, well, everybody have a good week, and we'll be back again next week, the week in real estate with Wes and Mary and Terrence. And if you have any questions, put them in our chat, and we'll see them and certainly get back to you. So everybody have a good week, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.